the campaign group Together have drafted a digital Bill of Rights to protect the freedom and rights of UK citizens in a time of increasingly powerful technology. I'm joined now by the co-founder of Together, Alan Miller. Alan, welcome to the show. I don't think people appreciate how vital this is, because does anything exist like this at the moment?
Not at the moment, Josh, and the thing is, right, that we love technology. We want everyone to be able to utilise it. We're very pro-technology, but privacy and surveillance and the whole encroaching nature of technocratic impositions is a real concern. So everything from cash, we've done campaigns around cash and having banks having cash and not debanking people around their views, free speech, the Online Safety Act. We've seen in a range of areas to different demographics. It's very interesting. Unlike the vaccine passports that everyone was horrified about, now they'll say things like, well, if you don't like the boats coming over, maybe we'll have some digital ID to stop that and crime. And so, and if you go to a bar, you might have some digital ID to go in there. So they're really trying to appeal, not like with a mandatory way, but we have to ask ourselves a question: how much of the state control our data, information about us, facial recognition in retail and outlets, and in an array of areas? We recently had a debate about the assisted suicide bill. YouTube pulled us down. So all of the questions about privacy, freedom, and we just want to make sure that we ring-fence some of these things and we have a discussion with the public and we say, look, we love technology, we don't want you to stop using your phones, but we want to make sure there are measures to limit and restrict surveillance and the constant pursuit of things, because otherwise we face a risk of a kind of social credit system. You know, Sadiq Khan himself said, well, it'd be good if we can track cars and we could do it at times, and then you might get fined. And all of a sudden you think every part of your life is kind of overseen and limited and restricted, and we're very concerned about that.
Yeah, because we were just talking the last segment about Tom Cruise, one of his movies, Minority Report, and they had a bunch of futurists come into that film and think, what will life be like in 30 years or 40 years? But the reality is that a lot of these measures are coming in the next 5 years. They're going to be it. We already see it in places like China, where people had needed a pass to get out of their home.
Well, the thing is, in China, you kind of know that you've got censorship, but in Britain, where we've had things like non-crime hate incidents, hate speech, we've had debanking for people like Nigel Farage and the Free Speech Union and Molly Kingsley at Uswem, a range of other people, based on people's ideas, a whole array of things. Like, if you can't bank because you've got certain views that actually the majority of the British public have, as it happens, we're in a really, really dire situation, and we have to get into a position where we can say, look, we're going to ring-fence some controls. We love technology, but we can't allow a surveillance state and a show me your ID and a kind of checkpoint Charlie situation. We launched on the basis of vaccine passports, a Together declaration, and we're asking everyone to message their MPs, get involved, feedback to us, and make sure that we're in a situation where we don't have a social credit system here.
So what's the purpose then? Right now you're just compiling, so you're asking for insight from other people that they can send to you, and then what are you going to do with all that information then?
Basically, we're going to campaign really hard, as we always do, with calls to action. We're going to go to the Treasury, the Department of Business, the government, and we're going to say, we don't think we should be restricted. We want to make sure we've got a declaration, a bit like the Constitution, a Bill of Rights. This is a new, moving, fast-paced arena. We get that. But we need to ring-fence our ability to speak freely, the hard-won victories of our grandparents and others that fought for those things, and make sure that we're not continually encroached upon by a kind of surveillance state, whether it's more CCTVs and more facial recognition or more digital ID, just all round that we're in a position that we can have a little bit more autonomy and privacy. Remember how Hannah Arendt said, if you don't have a private life, you can't have a public life. These two things are intertwined, it's essential.
But would this be something that you'd like to be written into law, or just a sort of a standard that the government agencies hold themselves?
Well, I think on all the areas we've got 10 points basically that we're saying are really important and imperative, and in each of the arenas, we campaigned around the Financial Control Authority and the Bank of England around cash. making cash available, making sure that we had like 100,000 people write into them, making sure that people are able to get ATMs, not having a situation where everything is just monitored and restricted. And we want in each of these areas the public to be involved and have their say. Look, Josh, if the public says we don't care about it, we think it's great and fantastic, fair play. But we want to make sure we have the discussion, everyone's clear about it, and they know what the consequences could be, and we can thrash out what that means and see what you'll think about it. Remember, the British public consistently said we don't want digital ID. Tony Blair and the Tony Blair Institute is continually pushing digital ID in different areas, and frankly, we've seen what that all meant with things like vaccine passports and under lockdowns. And even if you're concerned about things like low traffic neighbourhoods and low emission zones and where people are going and not and being fined, we don't want a situation where we've got a state that kind of imposes itself on our private life in our arena. Actually, they should get on with the important work of doing stuff with infrastructure and hospitals and schools and all that kind of thing, and leave us to get on with our private lives.
Yeah, I mean, I personally hate technology.
We're on a TV.
Yeah, we're on a TV. Yeah, but it's exactly. So I guess it's about the overreach. Is there one particular issue that for you that dominates? Would it be the banking? Would it be free speech? Obviously, that would work well with this show. No. But is there something you think is particularly under threat? Well,
there's a lot of things, Josh. But in the end, if we don't have free speech, we have no freedom. If I can't say to you, I think your position is preposterous, these are the reasons why, and even the most reprehensible ideas that we thrash out and discuss in society, and we believe the public is grown up enough to discuss them, then we're in trouble. There is one other freedom we should have, which is for the state not actually to kill people. So the assisted suicide bill is coming down the line as well, because you can't even have free speech if you're not alive. But free speech is imperative, and we think the public are grown up. We don't think they're all these names they call them, gammons, scum, nasty, but we think they're our friends and neighbours, the people all around us, and they can make rational decisions, and they're not all mad, and they're certainly not Nazis. Our grandparents fought Nazis. And we think the British public can make decisions about all these things, and we're really going to encourage them all to have an impact on it.
Yeah, I mean, but when it comes to the assisted dying bill, you don't think that by voting in Labour, that would be the democracy that they did then say that this is what...
Well, they're having a free vote, which is fair enough, so everyone's allowed to vote freely. They didn't have it as their manifesto. It's a very emotional issue. Many of us who've had people that have had very severe issues, it's really very complicated. But in the end, if we grant the state the right to kill people, that's a problem. And we've seen during lockdowns things like do not resuscitate, the kind of things, the Liverpool care pathway was meant to be outlawed, it's still going on. There's a whole range of things going on. You can only see a bean counter in the NHS thinking we've got 7 million on the waiting list. What about all these old people, you know, coffin dodgers, net zero, too many people? Oh, it's not good.
Well, it's also, I mean, I would argue that it's the people who may be pushing this are maybe pushing it for what they consider misguided but humane reasons. But certainly it's a slippery slope. And we've seen it where it's been implemented in other countries around the world. We have already seen the slide, essentially. So,
I mean, palliative care needs to be improved everywhere, right? And it's really important that we have a humane, very, civilised relationship to people at the end of life, but that's not what's happening. And in Canada and Australia, they actually had ring-fenced issues before, when they went voted through, and we've seen the slippery slope now. We've now had a situation where all those things, the safeguards have gone before we've even voted them in. So we're encouraging everyone to tell your MPs, particularly the ones who are on the fence, and try and stop this.
And very quickly, how can people get in touch with you to input on this Digital Bill of Rights?
You can see us at togetherdeclaration.org and at TogetherDec on X and Together Declaration on all the other platforms.
All right, well, good luck with it. Thank you very much. That was the co-founder of Together, Alan Miller.